Okay, hello again. Welcome everyone to Shower Dialogues, and this is episode 2. And today we have a very special guest, Shower Dialogues, where we navigate the intersection between architecture, sustainability, health, well-being, and resilience. Today we have a really special guest with us, Aya El Halaby. Please give us a quick intro.
Thank you, Waleed, and thank you for having me at Shower Dialogues.
My
It's a
pleasure.
pleasure to be here. So I'm Aya El Halaby, an architectural engineer, and I am currently working as a sustainability consultant manager. I hold a master's in environment and sustainability from Western University, and I'm pursuing another master's in design for human health from Boston Architectural College. My almost 12, 13 years of experience were focused on green building certifications, different programs, whether it's environmental or health and well-being. Then I diverted a little bit more into ESG and existing buildings. So new buildings, existing buildings, and then also sustainable urban development and quality of life within that. My experience is within North America, Canada, and MENA region.
Very, very good. My first question today, and I think we talked about it before, the current model of sustainability, since we are working in sustainability for quite a long time now, 10 to 15 years, and we have seen the evolution happen. And I think what's happening now is not matching what we have thought about the future of sustainability. It's not, let's say, meeting our expectations. Uh, do you agree or not that the current model of sustainability is not efficient enough? And what is the root cause of that? And do we have a role in that as sustainability professionals or not?
Yeah, I think if we look at sustainability in the past 2 decades, I would say, since 2008 almost, it's when the movement started within the MENA region, maybe a little bit earlier in North America. The approach has been focused on getting a label or getting a certification for buildings, whether it's buildings or even like larger developments, which is per se not a bad thing, I would say, but at the same time, it might be limited in the way the sustainability topic is approached. Because if we look at
Mm.
sustainability as a principle or a concept, it has these three pillars where it focuses about on economic, environmental, and social aspects. If the approach is just getting a certification or mandating that, then there is a gap that will be missed because you're not looking holistically at the three pillars of sustainability.
Mhm. Mhm.
And I think this has been an approach because it's an easier prescribed kind of check the list strategy that allows for achieving or getting an outcome that is tangible. Like I achieved a certification, it's easier to market using that and easier to communicate the achievement. While this has helped the market improve and obtain sustainability or start talking about sustainability as a aspect within, let's say, the built environment or the development sector and existing buildings, I think it has not helped driving the holistic approach of sustainability. I know that recently green building certification started considering social equity, considering resilience, so looking a little bit beyond the solo lens of, let's say, environmental performance. So with that expansion, I think this is where we wanted to head or we wanted to go towards, ensuring that we are considering sustainability in a balanced approach that actually looks at the different aspects and helps improve it. And I think the market has yet to pick up on this fully, but there is this new ESG approach, some interest in sustainable
Yeah,
investment and ensuring these pillars are actually all being met, not just one of them solely.
very good. Fantastic. Thank you, Aya, very much. And that takes me to the next question. I think you made a very interesting comment in one of your posts on LinkedIn that the integration between lead, fit well, and well is still missing. So people who are interested or working in lead and Mustadam and other systems, they are working on the back end. I just borrowed your term, back end, while the front end, the fit well and well still not in the picture enough. What do you think about that?
Okay, so I think the root of this whole thought comes as a designer, as an architect. You always think about the user. You think, how do they experience the building, and how they're interacting with the spaces we're creating for them. This term I actually used with one of the clients that was working on a very huge development in Toronto for a LEED certification, and I used this exact term. I told him, you are doing LEED. It's an environmental, or like more focused on environmental certification, but the end user, or the person who's going through your building, is not going to see any of that. They're not going to be aware of it. While if you're pursuing, or if you pursue a more health and well-being certification, whether it's fit well or well, there will be this client-facing, let's say, or user-facing aspects similar to, for example, encouraging fitness, or providing water supply in fitness rooms, like leading to amenities, and directing the residents or users to surrounding amenities. These small things are tangible from the users of the building, instead of just saying that you achieved X amount of recycled content or reduced energy this much. Because as a user of the building, I wouldn't know that. So personally, I think both certification programs, or both approaches, complement each other. And just studying environment on its own in my first master's, I felt it's missing that aspect. And once I went to the market and I saw that health and well-being is being introduced to more of the corporate side, as health and well-being programs, etc. And that's where, like, I met or knew well, and then fit well afterwards, and introduced it because it made sense. Like, these two to go together and hand in hand to actually create environments that are positive, and create a more positive atmosphere. That being said, we cannot say that this is not luxurious, or not doesn't come with a price tag to it. But that price tag, when you look at the full scenario and the actual business case of sustainability, saying we spend 90% of our time indoors, this means that any positive impact within indoors is actually helping users and clients get the payback in a positive way, whether they know it or not. And then even wider than that, it's helping the overall health of the community, as a result, helping ministries of health and helping government. So it's I think sustainability is helping the environment. We really need the health and well-being aspect to help the user, the human that is using the building.
Yes, I agree. I think you are that in some systems like Well and Lead, they have some synchronizations and synergies between both systems and certification routes.
Yes.
But something more let's say, fundamental always comes to my mind, that are these certifications enough? If we are talking about a building like LEED certified or Mustalem certified, specific system, and Well or Fit Well certified, is it enough to certify that building in operation stage as if it's a healthy, sustainable building?
I think there is no one way to say this building is going to solve all the problems. There's always, let's say,
Trade-offs?
a price, or what is the right word? It's you need to give away something and take something. But to be able also, however, like, this question was an urgent question for me, to compare how can these different certification programs, what are they serving? So back in 2020, just before COVID, I raised the question of, let's look at different green building certification programs. We looked at 8 of them and compared them to the UN SDGs. The intent was to look at how do these programs compare to the UN SDGs, and how much they would achieve from the targets or the intents of UN SDGs. And at that time, one specific certification achieved the highest, was it's achieving 40% alignment, which is pretty much not that high. And we understand that UN SDGs are more holistic. They are looking beyond just operation or how do you build. They're looking at more whole, like society health and environmental aspects that are beyond just a building. So that being said, there's no one solution out there.
Mm.
We're always going to need this looking beyond just checking the list of a certification. And that was, I personally, I think how I wanted to utilize this research that was done was through creating low-hanging fruits list
Mm.
that could be actually taken from different certification programs that could be with a very low cost, low effort, low modification to design, and ensuring that these aspects are becoming part of certification.
Mhm.
And I think that also leads us to another approach that has been adopted by developers recently. They've been looking at the idea of creating their own design standards.
Yes.
So these design
Yeah.
standards or owner requirements could help in elevating the idea of just
Mm.
I need to apply a certification and achieve it. This could take us to the idea of this is the minimum, these are the low hanging fruits embedded in our requirements, and then we can achieve XY certification um, per se, and ensure that there is that marketing tool, let's say, or ensuring there's that threshold being verified by a third party, but also there's a minimum as a company, as a leadership, they're targeting for their developments.
How can we make sure that all, let's say, the mega clients, and they are building their own sustainability benchmarks and requirements, how can we make sure that they are all, I don't want to say leveled, but they are referring to the same datum, or they are following the same standard? We don't have very high variations between such and such.
Yeah, I think some of that role could happen with the minimum building codes.
Mhm.
So having minimum building codes that are actually considering sustainability or embedding these standards will also help like have this conversation in a more rigorous standard that
Mm.
would help everyone to let's higher their standards that
Yeah.
they're working on.
Mm.
Because if you start low with the codes and there's a lot of gap to overcome, then yes, you will find this variation pretty
Mm.
wide.
Mm.
But
Mm.
then if the codes are being more stringent, more higher requirements, and I think we've seen that with the sustainable building codes. There are
Yeah. Yeah.
multiple sustainable building codes in different locations, whether it's within Gulf area or within certain cities in North America. And that has also been driving change. So I think this is the baseline. From that baseline, you take it into more improvement. Once that baseline is also established, the gap will also be less, and we will have a more positive impact overall. Another approach that is might be not that relevant is also through frameworks that evaluate the investments and how sustainable the investments are. So they
The
drive
financial part
the
of sustainability. Yeah.
exactly they
Mm.
drive the decision making to be
Mm.
more aligned to sustainable goals.
Mm.
So with that, similar to GRESB or other frameworks that do GRI, etc., that's on the ESG side. So if that competition and that comparison starts, there's a benchmarking approach, then you start to see more, let's say, higher ambition to overcome the gap and to be more on the higher or in a more standardized competition that drives change positively.
I agree. I agree. Okay. Thank you very much, Aya. And that takes me to the next question about the interior spaces and how the interior spaces, the colors, the textures, the ergonomics, are affecting the human behavior, the human psychology, and how we perceive things. For example, in the last episode, we talked with Dr. Ines Clem about operation rooms, and we cannot have red color, for example, in operation room in hospitals. So, what's your comment on that?
Yeah, I mean, we have two aspects when we talk about interior spaces. We look at two different approaches or two different aspects. I would say we have the environmental psychology piece, and there's a list of things that we can look at under. And then we have the environmental behavior, or like how environment impacts behavior. So With the behavior side, we actually work on on the approach of the reverse change theory, where we
Mm,
look at what is the behavior or desired behavior that we want to target, and then we design the space with elements that support the assumptions that could get us to this outcome or behavior. So in one of the courses I was working on in my master's, I wanted to change the behavior between the interaction between parents and kids when they meet, and instead of having that interaction as a
mm,
rushed kind of like
mm.
no intimate
Hectic.
connection
Mm,
or no interaction between parents, I wanted to change that into more calm, interactive,
welcoming.
emotional
Yeah.
connection space.
Mm,
So I looked at this outcome, and then I created a slow down station. That's what I called it, where parents and kids can meet, unwind. They can have different seating areas depending on the feelings of the kid that day at
yeah.
school, whether
Mm,
it's isolated kind of pods or a more interactive one-to-one play with the parent or activity, or more like family gathering if it's a larger family, or even friends sitting on one large table. So having that
mm,
option to choose what to do and have this station or unwind station, slow down station. And the idea here comes with like also how do I did I connect it with design, looking at the colors, the, as I said, the way the setting it is, and giving these options, having biophilic design aspects, having
mm,
anchor points where they can
mm,
interact, even the idea of like showcasing their work at school and being proud about it. This also enhances their feelings. Having a wall where they can hang their
mm,
artwork and their achievements
mm.
at school, especially to the younger age. So that's for example how you think about reverse change theory. You put this assumption and what can I do, and then you design accordingly. So we look at different aspects such as age, perspective, and color. We look at the health situation and whether there is any kind of neurodivergent or any mental issues or even physical issues that we want to design for. So for environmental psychology, looking at these different aspects, we connect them through the idea of actually collecting, for example, in a home setting, we collect the portfolios of each user and understand their needs. So this could also happen through post-occupancy surveys where we understand the needs and we design according to these needs. And examples come, especially for example, for aging. We design for old people. We make sure that for example, the colors that are used in the space are not going towards the brownish beige colors because they actually
Mm,
start
mm,
not to be able to see them, and their vision already
mm.
sees things with
Differentiate.
brown. Yeah, it
Yeah, yeah,
already sees things with brown, yellow color. So
mm,
if the colors are in that, it starts to melt and like have a monochrome kind of colors that are not that could actually make them fall more possibly than if it's like more contrast colors. This
yeah.
also goes to like designing for people with uh, like low vision and ensuring in wayfinding in cities or in even in buildings there's that contrast between the background of a sign and the writing on it. When it comes to designing for kids, ensuring there are enclosures so they can feel the safety that they needed, similar to a nook in a wall or around a window seat. These are all aspects that within environmental psychology we ensure they are embedded and like they are part of design. Of course, I don't think this is yet very relevant to sustainability and the practice. It comes more on the design side, but not with
Mm,
the same, let's say, theory and analysis. It's come more like in the approach of designing or creative design. But once you hook that to the knowledge of the science behind it, it's really interesting to start to think, how can I help or create spaces that help treating certain illness, help in creating spaces that are more positive, whether it's even in a delivery room for a mother. How could it help the color choosing, the environment, the schools, the education? And I think even the mindfulness, like we want to have spaces that help our mindfulness, especially with our very speedy life that we live with it.
Thank you, Aya, very much for your insights. It's really, really insightful. And that takes me to the last two questions, talking about the ages and design for different ages. How do you think designing for the younger age, and what is the role of AI here? If we are talking about the younger age, so-called Generation Z, Generation Beta, Generation Alpha, and the older generations, what do you think? What do you think the difference between this and that, and how the AI is making a big difference here?
When it comes to design, I think, well, I think your question could be put into two different aspects. I would put AI on its own and then the design for generations on its own. As a start, for designing for generations, I think the newer generations are missing some aspects of the value of mindfulness within space. I think the fast-paced life, as I mentioned just at the end of my first question, has made their life more less attentive to what is
Uh-huh.
going around them. We're attached to. I mean, everyone is attached to a device instead of
Mm,
actually looking at surroundings.
mm,
And I think this comes with a challenge of how can we create spaces that are more engaging for different yeah, for different
mm,
ages, for different interests, and that could definitely require different approaches when designing for younger ages. However, we are all humans. Like the roots
mm.
are one. We all need this, whether we have forgotten it or it's still there, and we know it's part of our human needs to feel for safety, feel for calmness. These aspects are still there. So it, as a design approach, we still need all of that. Regardless, I think spaces could help introduce and make sure that people are aware of how space impacts them while they're being attentive to what is around them. Other than the normal, what we call the age requirements, there isn't. I wouldn't go further into creating spaces that are more age appropriate rather than more human appropriate or human needs aligned.
Mm, mm,
Yes,
mm,
yes, absolutely. And I think, as I said, we do this in cities. One aspect that I really enjoy in while we were learning how can we design for human health, we connected it to play. Kids actually have an ability to observe and know how to make things more fun and look with a new eye, especially because they're not yet bored of all of what is around them. So in urban design, it's really one of the nice approaches or recommended approaches is to get the kids in the city come and help you in designing urban areas or
yeah,
spaces because
yeah,
they
yeah.
help create that playfulness and
Mm,
the
mm,
spaces that speak more to our human, let's say, pure human inside us. So I do think kids has a role in design as well, not
mm.
just for how we design for them, but how they impact the places they are within. Now, when it comes to AI, I think AI, not just for design, for sustainability, it's a tool that we can utilize. It help us get more data in one place, synchronize this different data and information, and start to compare them.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think AI comes with the as a tool that supports decision making, supports design, and help us just see perspectives that maybe we couldn't have seen if we were just thinking in silos or in different, in more, let's say, streamed, single streamed approach.
Maybe that's what I mean when I mentioned or combined those two questions together, the AI and the aging, because if we design for the younger age and they are very familiar with AI, very familiar with social media, very familiar with the fast pace, So definitely designing for them is different than designing for older generations. Maybe this is just a rough assumption. This is not something that, yeah, well studied or
Mhm.
supported by studies. So that's what I mean. If we are using a lot AI, and the younger generations are mastering the AI better than us, this is affecting the interior spaces dedicated for them or not?
Um, I think this is worth investigating more. I don't think I would have an answer. Like when I reach my thesis, I'm planning to focus on, inshallah, on kids and mindfulness, and especially with all the devices. But I actually want them to be back into less connection to devices and social media, etc.
Fantastic. Yes.
Sure.
How do you see the future? How do you see the future of sustainability, architecture, interior design, so on and so forth?
Yeah, I think when I think about the future, whether it's within MENA region um, worldwide, I think the future here first builds on what is achieved already. I think the governments and different entities are being more aware. The uptake is getting more mature, and we have different, for example, within a MENA region, we have different programs, whether it's Mustadam, Istidama, different. Yeah, in each of the countries, there's different programs, even in Jordan and Egypt and Qatar. So I think this is, when looking at that, that's, we have a good foundation right now that could build to the future in a way that looks at how can we expand, how can we look more holistically. So I think the future is now looking at how can we expand what I talked about, the three pillars of sustainability. We want to look at social aspects, about economic aspects, and weave it in with sustainability practice, let's say. This also comes along with the idea of how can we design for the human-centered quality of life improvement. I've seen it recently. I've worked on a project that is working on improving quality of life within residential developments in one of the Gulf countries. So I think that the approach is going towards ensuring the human is well taken care of, the environment is well taken care of, but also the economic. And I think this is just the base of sustainability. We're not going to reinvent the wheel, but we're doing what is right, and I think that's a positive way to look at the future.
Aya, it has been my pleasure to host you today. And thank you so much. And hopefully, this is not our last conversation. Thank you so much for
Absolutely.
being our guest today. And I'm really enjoying this. And inshallah, we will have different discussions on the same topic. Have a nice
Thank you so
day.
much, Waleed. Thank you. Thank you as well. Thank you for having me. Thank you.